So Insta360 has released the X5. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna run down the specs and all the information. We're also gonna compare it against the rumored DJI 360 camera and the rest of the industry. So we've got the latest camera in the action camera world, and Insta360 has officially announced the brand new X5, announced on April 22nd, 2025. They claim that it is the smartest, toughest 360-degree camera that they've ever built. Now, do I have the X5? No, because I'm not cool enough for Insta360 to send me one, so I have my X3 here. But there's a specific story about this camera that I want to talk about specifically as it relates to the X5, so we'll get to that in a second. But the X5 is available now. It's priced at $549. You can get it on the Insta360 store, as well as Amazon and other retailers, and I will put a link down below if after this video you felt that I have persuaded you to purchase it. So Insta360 hosted a hands-on pop-up event at New York City's Grand Central Terminal, where creators and fans could try out the X5 and participate in demos. They also had some exclusive merch. So let's dive into the X5 specifically and what kind of sets it apart from previous versions, and then later on we'll talk about the competition. So the Insta360 X5 captures 8K 30, and that's not just a number that they're throwing out. The 8K frames are actually super sampled from a total of 11K. And the reason that that's important is that when you're shooting or using a 360 camera, you're traditionally not going to be actually looking at the entire view, unless you're doing that like tiny planet thing. Normally you are doing reframing and zooming, and that's where the clarity of the sensor and the amount of resolution that you have really makes a difference. But the resolution itself is not a bump from the previous X5, but there are improvements in this sensor that we need to talk about. First, they've enhanced the active HDR mode to improve the dynamic range, and you do get a 5.7K resolution option at 60 FPS, which you can then slow down in post. Traditionally, low light performance has not been great on these cameras, but they are claiming that that is no longer an issue. And with their pure video mode, they can use their AI machine learning algorithms to reduce noise and automatically optimize the dynamic range based on the amount of light in the environment. Still photography on the X5 is up to 72 megapixels, which again, that's stitched together. You're not gonna look at that whole image, you're probably gonna be zooming in. But how is that possible? How are they doing that? A lot of it is coming from a new sensor. So 360-degree cameras traditionally are two sensors, two cameras, right? And a little sandwich. And so both of these sensors on the X5 are 1/1.28-inch sensors. Now, I wouldn't call this massive, right? This isn't a giant sensor, and it's really not even 1/1.28. It gets really confusing until you get to things like APS-C and 35mm, which is actually 35mm or full frame. But I'll put a graphic up here showing the equivalent of this sensor alongside the sensor in my full frame Canon R6 Mark II. Now, that doesn't mean that the sensor in this camera is bad at all. And it is considerably larger than what we had in the previous X4. But at 1/1.3, it's very similar to what you have in other action cameras from DJI, Insta360, and GoPro, as well as drones like the DJI Air 3S. But much larger than the sensors that you would traditionally find in a smartphone camera, and maybe just a little bit smaller than what you might see in a higher end compact camera. But the previous version, the X4, the sensor is almost 150% larger. And the bigger the sensor, especially if you keep the resolution similar, the more surface area there is for light to hit, which means the light comes out better. Better color and better sharpness come with more light. And there's really only two ways to get more light into your sensor. Make the sensor bigger or make the lenses bigger. And they've done both in this case. And that's where the next feature actually is a huge deal for me. So this is my X3. Within about 2 weeks of getting this, I had a little bit of a fumble on my bike and I scratched both of the lenses. Should I have had these guards on here? Absolutely. If you have an Insta360 or any kind of 360-degree camera and you don't have guards on it, you need to get those now. I'll put a link down below to these that I'm using. They work really well. They're easy, inexpensive. They just stick on and clip on, and you can really easily kind of take them off. There they come off. But I should have been using those and I wasn't. My camera got damaged as a result, and I had to send this in to Insta360 to get repaired. And actually they just sent me a brand new one, but it's still an X3. And the price of the repair was less than I would have paid for a new X4 or this new X5. But with the X5, they moved to a fully replaceable lens system, which is much appreciated, considering the fact that it would have been much easier for me to just do this replacement at home. Replacement kits are only $29.99. So if you are an adventurer or clumsy or forgetful, I am all three of those things, you really need to put guards on your lenses, or you need to upgrade to the X5 so that you can replace the lenses when you eventually scratch them. Now let's talk about the outside. This thing definitely has a new look. It's bigger, obviously to accommodate those larger sensors and larger glass. It's got more of kind of a transformer vibe to it. They're claiming it is IP68 waterproof with enough protection to dive down to 49 feet without a housing, and it supports their magnetic mounting system. That allows for things like quick swaps and different accessory setups. But one area where they've definitely looked to improve, and I've got to hand it to them because they could have just done this in sort of a TikTok cycle and done like new lenses with this iteration and then maybe the next one do the sound upgrade, but they actually did a huge sound upgrade with this camera. It has a multi-layer wind guard as well as being paired with their improved audio algorithm. So if you're in the middle of a windy environment or if you're going super fast on your mountain bike windsurfing adventure, this will definitely be the best version of an Insta360 camera that you've probably ever had. I want to link to a video that I watched that I thought was phenomenal from the Lone Ranger, who is a mountain bike YouTuber, who did a phenomenal video talking about how good this camera is. But with the larger size in the body, they've also improved the battery size. So the battery size on the X3, which is 5.7K as opposed to 8K, is an 1800 milliamp battery, where the X5 is a 2400 milliamp battery. I can pretty squarely get 2 hours out of this battery. I actually use this camera more often than not shooting behind the scenes footage on my photography shoots, and I easily get about an hour and a half. They claim with the X5, you'll be able to get over 3 hours or 185 minutes at 5.7K. Now that is 24 frames per second in their endurance mode. So if you are shooting at 8K 30, you're likely gonna get closer to an hour and a half. But they've got super fast charging that will allow you to get to 80% charge in 20 minutes. They've also got a new feature called twist to shoot. So if you don't wanna touch the buttons or wait for it to respond to a voice command, you can just twist the selfie stick back and forth and it'll start recording right away. So even if it's mounted on a helmet, on a pole, somewhere you can't get to it, just twist and boom, you're going. Now it still supports voice commands, and with the improved microphone, that's probably gonna be better. But it's all of these little features along with the significant improvement in the video quality and the mic quality that makes this really kind of a big release for them. But they've also included some additional kind of software features that are directly aimed at folks who are using these cameras in a variety of ways. And one of those features, and one that I would probably find myself using the most, is called Instaframe. So it's gonna record the full 360, but it's also going to, at the same time, record a second video that is pre-framed. And then those reframe shots can be instantly shared. There's also improvements to the editing app. They've got cloud backup. There's a lot going on with this camera beyond just the hardware. But I want to do a quick breakdown on where the X5 stands against its rivals. Where is it in the competition, and where does it stand against the rumored release from DJI? The first camera that we have to mention is the GoPro Max, as well as the Ricoh Theta Z1. And those are both offerings. I don't know if you would call them strong. The GoPro Max is $500 and it got an update to change the mount this year. And the Theta Z1 goes for over $1,000. And neither of them have sensors that are as large as the X5's 1/1.2 inch. They also don't offer replaceable lenses, and they don't have the ruggedness. They also don't have AI pure video, Instaframe, right? Insta360 is just moving the goalposts. And I know that Insta360, right, 360's in their name, that's what they do, but you would kind of hope that there would be somebody else out there that could, I don't know, compete with them. And DJI is the obvious candidate, and we've had rumors coming for months that they're going to be releasing an Osmo 360 camera. We've seen designs, we've seen some mock-ups, and we've seen what we think are some photos and video of it in testing near DJI's headquarters. And DJI competes in the action camera space with the Osmo Action 5 Pro, which is a phenomenal action camera. And as it's continued to be updated since its release last fall, is in my opinion, the market leader, if not tied for number one in this space. And I've been saying it for a while, they just need to take two of the Action 5 Pros and just glue them together. I mean, it seems kind of obvious to me. That camera has a 1/1.3 inch sensor. DJI puts 1/1.3 inch sensors in like everything they make. Just put two. It's got a beautiful and bright OLED screen. They did a phenomenal job with the audio system in the Action 5 Pro. They put onboard storage in the last version. They're great at stabilization, both in their drones and in their action cameras. They've got tons of AI tracking features in like everything they make. They've got a fully fleshed out accessory pipeline. Their D-Log M color profile is relatively well regarded and used pretty much everywhere, though I would like to just see D-Log and not the D-Log M variant. And additionally on the sound side, with the DJI mic system, which also functions well with pretty much everything that they make, this just seems like a no-brainer. And to be quite honest, I think that Insta360 has definitely brought something great to market with this camera. I think that this is definitely a leap, both in the action camera space and in the 360 space. And I think that DJI is the company to get in and offer competition so that no one sits on their laurels. I feel like that's what happened to GoPro as they continued to use the same chips and sensors and not really iterate or create exciting features, which is how we now have Insta360 with the Ace and DJI with the Action, bringing cool and new and exciting things to market. GoPro is doing everything they can to compete. But let me know down in the comments if this is an interesting product for you, if you're already an owner of a 360-degree camera, and if something like the X5 draws you. I would say if you are an X3 owner already, you might want to look at upgrading. If you are an X4 owner, maybe not, but it depends on the amount of work that you do. So let me know down in the comments. I'm really curious to hear from you. At the same time, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.